Chop, the original Guillotine League podcast. Everything you need to know to avoid the chopping block. Chop is brought to you by GuillotineLeagues.com.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matthew Freedman, Matt at the Oracle, and I'm here with you for the Week 13 Tuesday edition of Chop, the Guillotine League podcast. And as always, I'm here with Brian Johnson. We're going to take a look at the 10 most chopped players from Guillotine Leagues. We're going to take stock of the rest of season potential. We're going to discuss how we might approach them in those all-important Week 13 FAAB markets. Brian, were you chopped in any Guillotine Leagues this past week?
I was not. I'm still alive in 2 of the 3. I know 3 might not sound like a lot, but when you work at Guillotine Leagues, you can't play in as many. And I'm confident I make it to the end in most Freedman. But I see you in one of them. We're one of the final 6, and we're down to the final 6. So a lot of thoughts when it comes to FAAB strategy, how much to spend, how much to hold. Of course, it depends on how much you have. We'll get into that in a second. But I'm still holding on. Controlling the board in a couple, meaning I have the most FAAB. That's the you're in the catbird seat. That's where you like to be. How about you? Other than the one we're in, you in any others?
Yes. So I have one that's a friends and family with a few Fantasy Life users. And this league, it's the Freedman League, very originally named. If I win the league, then people make donations to, whatever charity I come up with. If I lose the league, then I'm paying $100 to the winner. So it's a free roll for everyone. I'm still in the league. And actually I finished with the highest point total this past week. So it's, I feel like I have a good team. And then the one I really want to talk about is the Halloween to Thanksgiving double chop league that we had in-house at Fantasy Life. 9 teams, 5 weeks, double elimination. I just won the league. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
Yeah, congrats. Yeah, I got chopped from that one. So there you go.
I mean, I beat producer Matt LaMarca in the final round. Again, not a big deal. He talked some trash and then came in third. Strong showing by him there. But honestly, I loved that truncated time frame, and like, especially because it was in the middle of the season, the buys matter all the more. It was lots of fun, and it makes me kind of look forward all the more to the playoff leagues that we're going to have in just a little bit. But, Brian, we talked a little bit last week about FAAB strategy at this time of the year. Increasingly, we're now getting at that point of the season where you have almost no wiggle room in your matchups. This week, Thanksgiving week, no bye weeks. What are your thoughts on how we approach this?
Oh, yeah, it's tough to make like a blanket statement to address FAAB strategy right now. Clearly, you want to look at your standings, in your league standings, see where you're at when it comes to FAAB. The more the better, of course. I think last week we touched on the fact that this year chopped players are available through the duration of the season. You want to, and players were available for bidding last year, but at a certain point that the chopped players weren't available, but users wanted chopped players to be available through the duration, which I'm in favor of that rule. But anyway, you got to save, I don't know, at least $30 minimum, just for the true end game, week 16, 17, that range. We'll call that, like the floor. That's really like the true zero. I would say like $25 to $30. And if you're real rich right now, like 500, 600 plus, certainly don't leave that on the table. It's time to start spending. I think the honey hole right now is around 250 to 300. And I think when we discuss the top 10 most chopped players this week, it'll be in terms of, again, we did it last week, just kind of the percentage of your remaining FAAB that these guys are worth to get again to the new zero, which is like $30. Don't go all the way down to zero. You can't do that. No one should do that. And if you're already there, I'm sorry. You're unlikely going to win. But prove me wrong, hopefully, at the end of the season. But I know that's kind of where we're at, Freeman. It's anecdotal for almost everyone, but try to keep yourself jockey position to be near the top of the FAAB leaders, because if you can control the board, it's a great place to be.
Yeah, I will say I'm just not in the situation. The 2 years now I've been playing this game. I have not been in the situation, that advantageous situation that you speak of being able to control the board. I go way too hard too early. And we'll see just kind of how the results turn out. And maybe next year I'll just need to kind of remind myself, like, okay, my inclination is to bid $500 on this player. Maybe I should bid $400. I'll just like
Mhm.
to sort of have that sort of governor to know, like, I need to scale back my bidding by about 20%, something like that. Because I feel good now about my team, and I feel like I have a number of in-game players on my rosters. But of course, at this stage, you just end up seeing more and more high quality in-game type players pop up on waivers. And I'm going to have very little chance of getting any of those guys from here on out. So my roster is relatively going to get weaker and weaker probably as we get closer to the end of the season. So something for me to keep in mind as I start to strategize for next year with the Guillotine Leagues.
But
All right.
still, even if you're in that like 30, 40, 50, 60, like under $100 in FAAB, you just survive these next 2 or 3 weeks to do some serious roster analysis. You mentioned there's no bye week, so you shouldn't, unless there's injury, and really you shouldn't be holding any injured players right now. So most of your options are available to you. Just see, like, can I survive? Just try not to spend, because in 2-3 weeks, end game players are going to be going for $20-$30, and then you'll
Yeah.
you'll be rich in a few weeks. You may feel poor now, but
Yeah. Just got to conserve. All right. So let's get into our What You Bid In segment, brought to you by our friends at Pristine Auction. And we're going to look at the top 10 most shopped players from week 12. And let's start at number 10, Devon Achane. Now, I remember us talking last week about how we were getting in that point of the year where bye weeks would start to matter. Jonathan Taylor popped up on this list last week when he was on bye. Same thing here with Devon Achane. 18.7% of his investors got chopped last week because they just couldn't navigate the bye week. I want him. I am really high on Devon Achane. I was high on him entering the year, and he has, I mean, he hasn't like fully combined what he did as a rookie with what he did last year in terms of efficiency and usage, but his usage is even greater this year. If you look at the utilization report we have at Fantasy Life, he's the number 3 running back this year in utilization. I mean, that Dolphins offense, even though it isn't really what we would have wanted it to be, he on his own, within, I wouldn't say it's a dumpster fire of an offense, but within a dysfunctional offense, he is still playing at an extremely high level. Brian, what are your thoughts on how we should approach Devon Achane in the FAAB market this week?
yeah, I'm with you in that he is a excuse me, an end game player, and the fact that he's on this list coming off his bye shows he was a key cog for teams that had survived this far. And yeah, not a replacement level player, but by any means. And moving forward, now coming off the bye, I mean, he was on a heater going into that like 150 plus combo yards in 2 straight. Looking at his schedule at New Orleans, or at home against New Orleans this week, that's not bad. At Jets, really, there's not any blockers on the schedule. At Pittsburgh in Week 15, not great, but that's followed up by Cincinnati at home in Miami, and then Week 17 at home against Tampa Bay. A game, I know Best Ball Bros were targeting in Week 17, hoping for some fireworks in that one. Should see it. And you said they're letting them play, letting Achane play. I feel like they've ramped up. They're letting Ollie Gordon and Jalen Wright get a few more touches than we'd like to see, but I still think we'll see 75% of the opportunities going to Achane. So yeah, going back to what percentage you should spend on your FAAB, I wouldn't say all in to get to that like $30 baseline, but it's like 90% of what you got to get down to, like, I don't know, save yourself like $50-$60. But yeah, he's a top 5 running back, so he's an end game player for sure, and catches passes. So yeah, elite.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, you're not going 100% to get to, as you mentioned, like that sort of not absolute zero, but functional zero of $20 or $30, but you're getting pretty close to it. And I love the way that his end of season goes for him, because he's coming off of the bye now. So he should have a little extra juice. And then also, it's not uncommon for offenses like teams to kind of self-evaluate in the bye week and have a little more functionality within their offense coming out of the bye. He's got 3 of 5 games at home, where the Dolphins historically have had a pretty good home field advantage. And then the 2 road games he has, they're both East Coast games. So not much travel involved there. So a pretty good end of the season schedule for Devon Achane. I'm with you, and just wanting to be pretty aggressive. If I could add him, I would. I mean, I don't think I'm going 100%, but I'm getting pretty close to it. Because Devon Achane, Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey, there are only a handful of running backs that I think any week have a chance of hitting 50 points in PPR, but Achane is one of those guys.
Yeah, JT isn't even one, right? Because he doesn't really have quite that pass catching ability or usage. Taylor needs the 3 touchdowns to hit that 50 burger, but Achane is in that CMC Gibbs tier, no doubt.
Yeah.
But he plays on a garbage team, but still getting it done.
He does play on a garbage team, but the thing is,
Jason points, baby. You love it.
What is really intriguing about the Dolphins is that they have played well before. They have had a good offense before. And if coming out of the bye, they're able to be just a little bit better, this could be really big things for Achane as we approach the stretch run.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The number 9 most chopped player, Emeka Egbuka. I mean, what are your thoughts here? Chris Godwin has returned. Baker Mayfield is hurt.
Yeah.
The shine has worn off. He's still getting decent utilization, but it's not the same.
I tell you, I had him a bet I made in the summer, 400-1 for Egbuka to win Offensive Player of the Year, and that ticket started to accrue value early on in the season. But Egbuka has kind of hit that rookie wall, held under 10 PPR points in 5 of his last 6, and factoring in the things you just mentioned, Godwin coming back, even though rising tide can lift all boats, but Baker's hurt. Yeah, he's not an end gamer. Maybe streamable this week. They got the Cardinals at home, but you're not paying any more than $5 for a guy you're going to stream. So if you need a flex player, especially a wide receiver, I guess I'd throw 5 at Egbuka. But he's not an end game player. He's just a spot level player in a decent matchup at home against Arizona.
Yeah. It feels like if you are bidding on Egbuka this week, especially when there are no buys, you have the full roster open to you. It feels like he is a bridge to nowhere. Yeah. So
5 is almost too much. It's almost like $1. You're throwing he's a collection of $1 bids you'll throw out there.
Yeah,
and he might not even be at the top of the list.
Yeah, agree on that. All right, the next guy on the list, the number 8 chopped player from this past week, Lamar Jackson. We talked about him last week on the show, and we had the conversation of, okay, he's an in-game quarterback, but you might not need to add an in-game quarterback or him specifically right now. And now I think we actually need to question or have the conversation about whether he actually is an in-game quarterback. And that obviously, I'm not saying this to besmirch the integrity of Lamar Jackson or anything, but he is not running nearly as much as he used to. And that was the thing that gave him a really high floor and elevated his ceiling. And he still looks like Lamar Jackson out there in terms of the way that he's able to facilitate within that offense, but he's not quite as explosive. And that has a cascading impact on what he's able to do in that offense. Man, I'm not bidding on him this week. It's maybe, if I bid, it's maybe a defensive bid, something to where it's okay, if you give me Lamar Jackson for $20, 15, I don't know, even that feels like too much to me. But I'm probably not biting on this. There are other quarterbacks I would be interested in before Lamar.
Yeah, I'm pretty much lockstep with you. He just doesn't look right. He's been injured and he looks like he's playing hurt. And they're on a show. So, they got the Bengals this week. You're like, oh, that's a pretty good matchup, but they're playing on Thursday. So he's banged up and it's on a short week. And, that's a game where they could hopefully just, ride King Henry to victory at home. So I guess I would still bid on him in the event that he blows up. He's not a guaranteed starter. You might have a better option, but like in the event he does go off and he looks great, then you're like, okay, we back, right? And then they got Cincinnati again, week 15. Not great matchups in week 16 and 17, New England, Green Bay. So I guess I will bid on him, but couple bucks if I'm surfing the quarterback market, I'll mix him in, but I won't be upset if I don't win him for that much. But yeah, I wouldn't. I'd hope he slips through the cracks for like $2, $1 or $2. But
yeah,
that's
like
it.
I have never been this unenthusiastic about a guy who, without question, has the ability to pass for like 400 yards and get 5 touchdowns in a game. Like that is within the range of outcomes this week, right? Going against the Bengals. And then he has the Bengals once again later. But still, just I kind of want to see him actually do it before I would invest in him. So yeah, not going to bid on him too aggressively, if at all, this week. All right, so Jonathan Taylor, let's get to him. Our number 7 chopped player from last week. Man, we talked about him on last week's show. And it was a question about like, how aggressive do you go? Like, you're not going to have many opportunities to get Jonathan Taylor. And then he went out there and did very little against the Kansas City Chiefs. And now he's available once again. I think it's a question. Are you going to be as aggressive this week as you were last week in trying to get Jonathan Taylor?
I believe we did, throw out the disclaimer that, be wary. He's got this matchup coming up against the Chiefs, which is just brutal on paper, and it proved to be that. So we're talking Taylor again for the second straight week. Again, last week he was on the list because of the bye. A little better matchup at home against Houston, at Jacksonville, at Seattle in week 15, not great. But end of the day, he's still an end game player. He's not my favorite end game running back because of the he's on again when he's on that pass catching tier as McCaffrey, Gibbs, Achane. But you're essentially, unless you have CMC, Achane, Gibbs already on roster, you're going to be aggressive to go after Taylor because Colts in the thick of they're jockeying for play. They want to win their division. They want home field advantage. They're going to ride Taylor hard. So he's like 95%. I'm not going to say all in to get to that $30 baseline we've been talking about, but he's at like 95%. And if you got a ton of FAAB, you're spending enough. If you got a couple $100 buffer between the next guy up, spend $1 more just to ensure you get him. He's still that kind of player, even coming off the dud week. He doesn't have to play the Chiefs again, thankfully.
The one thing I will say, I'm starting to question the reality of this Colts offense. The wins that they have are against really subpar opponents. But going against tougher opponents, they lost to the Rams. They lost to the Chiefs. They lost to the Steelers in Pittsburgh, which, there's no shame in that. That's a tough place to play. But also, it's not as if the Steelers are all that good. Their wins, generally speaking, are not quality wins. And then now they're going against the Texans. They're going on the road to play the Jags. The Jags defense, it's better this year than it has been previously. They're going on the road to play the Seahawks. That is brutal. They're playing the 49ers, who have gotten better as of late as they've acclimated to the new normal of their defense without a lot of their stars. It's just a situation where I'm skeptical that the offensive firepower that we saw in the first half of the season is going to present itself in the second half of the season. So, I mean, yes, Jonathan Taylor is awesome. We want him. I think it's just a question of, thinking about it. Jonathan Taylor versus Achane. We're probably investing more in Achane at this point, I'm imagining, right?
At this point, yeah, I do have the concern that, they're like, all right, maybe let's give Wright, Gordon a little more run, not get Achane hurt in a lost season. And it's not a lost season for the Colts. But yeah, I hear you that I feel like Taylor has seen the peak of his production this year. I was just curious. I'll throw this out there. This is the first game between the Texans and Colts this year. They'll play again week 18, which we don't really care about. But here's Taylor's touchdowns over his last, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games against the Texans, starting with the most recent. These are just rushing. 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1. His first game he ever scored. So good history for JT against Houston, just a random factoid. But yeah, right now I would lean Achane just on that PPR floor and massive ceiling he provides.
All right, one guy that I think we can probably get through pretty quickly. The number 6 most chopped player from last week, DeAndre Swift. For me, this is just a no. He's rotating with Kyle Monangai. I don't really have much interest. Let me rephrase that. I have zero interest.
Yeah, took one look at Dwayne McFarland's utilization report from week 12 just to confirm it. And Monangai scored a 53 and Swift a 39. So almost like both, really, they're just eating each other's lunch right now. But Monangai now appears to be the lead back going into week 13. So yeah, Swift is essentially, I guess he's worth a roster spot, but not even worth a $0 bid. Don't waste your priority. I think there's a better $0 bid out there. But if something were to happen to Monangai, then Swift becomes interesting again. But right now, that's not the case.
All right. The number 5 most chopped player from last week, Nico Collins.
Now we're interested again, right?
Yeah. I think this is a moderate bid. He might be in game. Right at the end of the season, he might be playing like a top 12, a top 8 fantasy wide receiver in those final weeks, which means that he can't be ignored. I also don't think you bid aggressively on him either, though. And so it's a question of sort of threading the needle. Brian, how are you approaching Nico Collins? Because of all of the names on the list for this week, he actually might be the most intriguing to me.
Yeah, are your concerns with Nico that CJ Stroud might come back as quarterback? Yeah, I think mine too. Really, yeah. If we were guaranteed Davis Mills, who has just been like, akin to what Joe Flacco was for Jamar Chase, right? I mean, just Mills loves Nico. Nico's been crushing, and according to Pro Football Focus, he's has the 6th easiest remaining schedule for wide receivers. So not an all-in. He's not a JSN, not an Amon-Ra St. Brown, but man, he is close. So I would say he's like worth 80 to 85% of your FAAB to get to the that again, that new zero, like the $30 baseline. I still think he might not be a dunk as a starting wide receiver, but he's an end game flex worthy player right now, and I envision he will be, even if CJ Stroud is the quarterback.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing to think that the return of CJ Stroud, who just 2 years ago was the offensive rookie of the year, to think
he's
that
an MVP candidate almost that season too.
I know
he was in the convo, but yeah,
to think that he could be a downgrade on Davis Mills, I would not have had on my bingo card entering the season. But
Kyler Murray. I mean, the list, man. Joe Burrow's almost. We'll see if Joe Burrow's an upgrade over Joe Flacco. But yeah, wild year.
Yeah. So Nico Collins, being. Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more moderate on you in the aggressiveness to get him, but part of that is also I've lived the Nico Collins experience in way too many of my leagues this year. So I'm just maybe a little bit bitter about it and maybe not as unbiased as I should be on it. All right. The number 4 chop player from this past week, Kyren Williams. This is a yes for me. Now, the Rams have a high implied total this week. They're number 2 on the slate. With Kyren Williams, he loses goal line opportunities to Davante Adams, but he still has 9 touchdowns in 11 games this year. He still has 980 yards in 11 games. He's not all that far off from last year's numbers, last year's pace of 16 games, almost 1,500 yards, 16 touchdowns. Not quite at those numbers, but like he's not all that far from it either. He's still pretty much Kyren Williams, and the offense, the overall offense is better this year than it was last year. He's someone that I can imagine as a starting running back or a flex for me in a championship matchup. What are your thoughts, Brian, on how we approach Kyren Williams this week?
Yeah, he did concede 35% of the snaps to Blake Corum, which is probably going to be the split moving forward and has been. And like you said, Davante Adams is the true goal line back. But yeah, Williams manages to score touchdowns almost every week. It's because that offense is elite. And is he an end game player? I mean, I'm looking at week 16 at Seattle. I don't know if you're starting him there, but in week 17 at Atlanta, but just the fact that he's not in that H-Chan level. He's got that skill set, but Corum is just eating into the work, and Adams at the goal line. I still want him. I think you're starting him at least this week at Carolina, then at Arizona versus Detroit. The next 3, I like those leading up to that Seattle game. But he's not in that 80+% of the FAAB I'm willing to spend. It's more like I'll go with 60%, which is kind of his snap rate. 60% of your FAAB I would spend on Williams because I wish he got more usage or more than 65%. Corum's all right, but just feed Kyren more. But because of Corum, I'm at that 60% kind of budget.
Yeah. What I like about Kyren Williams is that I feel like I could get at a discount, right? Because a lot of people probably feel the way that you feel. I think I can get at a discount now, a guy who still has the capability any given week of giving like 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, because of his skill set and then also the offense that he's in. So I like the idea of not having to pay up like for an Achane or a Jonathan Taylor and getting Kyren Williams, on the cheap when if things go right and he's in a game that just absolutely explodes, which can always happen in a Rams game. I can have a guy who actually produces like an in-game player, even though I didn't have to invest that kind of capital in him. So I don't want to be aggressive in terms of the amount of FAAB that I'm putting in him, but I want to be really strategic about it because I want to give myself a decent chance of getting him. So yeah, I think the 50 or 60% mark, that feels probably like the right mark, but just sort of like philosophically, yes, Kyren Williams is a yes for me. He's someone I would like to have, assuming I can get him cheap.
Yeah, and he's like the perfect guy where you get him for that 50% of your FAAB or whatever, which let's call it, $100, 80-ish to 100. Yeah, you ride him hard for the next 3 weeks, and then you go into that week 16. That's when, if you're saving your $30, that's when you can get a Jahmyr Gibbs or a Devon Achane for 20, and then there's your swap. You thank Kyren for his service going into Seattle, and but yeah. Basically, I'm with you. He's definitely more than serviceable in the near term.
Yeah, so Kyren Williams for me is a yes. And let me tell you what also is a yes for me is Xfinity. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to have Xfinity, all the games all in one place. They have the Sports Zone where you can get every pro football game and over 1,000 college games with highlights and alerts all in one place. There's the multi-view where you can be in up to 4 stadiums at once. There's the Xfinity fan view with 5 scores with live scores, odds and stats all in one place, personalized for you. And then of course there's the stunning Xfinity enhanced 4K and the voice remote, which makes watching football literally as easy as saying football. I mean, amazing stuff from our friends at Xfinity. I want to watch a football game right now. All right. Learn more at xfinity.com. Restrictions apply. New residential customers only. Taxes and fees are extra and subject to change. All right. We are getting into it here. The number 3 chopped player from last week. Stephon Diggs at 23.8%. Oh man, I will just say no. This is an easy flat out no for me. I think he's too inconsistent week to week in terms of his usage. The offense obviously has a ton of potential, and when Stephon Diggs is playing at his peak, he can produce like a high end wide receiver too, but it's too inconsistent, and he's not going to be an in game player for me. I don't think I'm even making a $0 bid on him.
Yeah, he's. I know I've been starting him in one league basically every week, and last week will be the last week that I even play Stephon Diggs. Yeah, the return to Kayshon Boutte certainly didn't bode well for Diggs, and Matt Collins is kind of making a late season emergence. Even Kyle Williams, the rookie, they're ramping him up a little bit. So way too many mouths to feed. And Hunter Henry might be the most reliable pass catcher at this point for New England. So yeah, don't even bid on Diggs. I don't think you want to play him this week. Even who do they got?
The Giants.
They got their. It's not awful, but they're on bye. So they still have their bye looming. So Diggs, not even worth rostering.
All right, the number 2 most chopped player from last week, Jameson Williams. This is unreal stuff.
I played him in a league. I didn't get chopped over Michael Wilson. That's how bad he has.
Wow.
So, admittedly, I didn't really pay too much attention to that one. But sorry, I cut you off there. But I looked at that and I was like, "Ooh, I deserve to get chopped for playing Jameson over Michael Wilson."
23.9.
Yeah, I mean, he was coming on, but true colors shone through, right? Ultimate spike week disaster. So, not bidding on him, right? He's right there with Diggs. This is really nothing's worse when they're out of Jameson. But really don't have any fireworks towards the end of the show here. These players were burning through the good ones.
I mean, the Jameson Williams thing, I will say, is interesting. I want a defensive bid on him, right?
Really?
I mean, obviously, what I will say, it's by defensive, like it's cheap, right? But I want to see what the sustained workload looks like with Dan Campbell calling plays. So last week he was terrible. He had, I think literally like 0 catches on 3 targets. For the 3 weeks before that, he was great. It was like, 100 yards and a touchdown. He's a guy I'm fine having on my bench for the cheap, knowing that if something happens to Amon-Ra St. Brown, or if that Lions offense really starts to catch fire, and knowing that the Lions are playing indoors for the rest of the season, right? And if it's a situation where Jameson Williams starts to become a little more consistent week to week because he has a higher workload in an offense now called by Dan Campbell. If those things come together, and if I find like, oh man, I'm in this matchup, it's, like week 17, there are 3 of us left, I'm the clear dog. Okay, maybe I go with Jameson Williams because he's more inconsistent, but I at least know this dude has a chance of having like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, right? I feel like I'm fine having that on my bench if I can get it for really cheap. So I don't want to be aggressive, but the good thing is because of how much Jameson Williams stunk last week, I think there's a chance of being able to get him pretty cheap. And that's something I'm fine having on my bench.
Yeah, you convinced me. I was saying I'm not even going to bother, but especially with the sun god handcuff angle, and we won't get into it. Maybe next week there are, we should start talking wide receiver handcuffs as end game potential players, and I suppose Jameson Williams would fall into that category if something were to happen to Amon-Ra St. Brown. So yeah, he is worth a roster spot. So I'm convinced. But I think, like you said, you can get him for how many points he scored last week, which is $0. But yeah, go out and grab him.
Yeah. All right. The most chopped player from week 12, Josh Allen, 27.3%. I mean, it was Thursday night football massacre, just in terms of what he did not do in prime time this past week against the Texans. But we've talked about, end game players, end game quarterbacks. Is Lamar Jackson an end game quarterback? in my mind, Josh Allen is the end game quarterback. Like I don't want to go massive on him because I just don't think that's a good strategy for the quarterback position. But he is someone, if I were able to get him, I know I'm just locking him in. I don't have to think about the quarterback position. And each week, last week aside, each week I have a guy who has a very consistent high floor and a stratospheric ceiling. So Josh Allen, I think it's a question of how aggressive you want to be on any quarterback right now. But if you are going to be aggressive, I think he is the quarterback that you be aggressive for.
Yeah, you make great points, and I agree. Like you don't need to get too aggressive at quarterback, but right now, I mean, it's really Josh Allen, and maybe Jalen Hurts is right there with him, but as end gamers, but Lamar is not. And we were saying Drake May, maybe Baker in past weeks, and no. So, man, I think, and this could be your last chance to acquire Allen. So, I got these poker chips at my desk, and it's gonna be loud, but I don't know. I'm kind of, I know it happens to what's his face at the end of rounders. He loses to the hand, but I think I would almost go all in and still save myself $50 on Allen because he is the quarterback you want at the end of the day. So of course it's anecdotal. I'm just going to be as aggressive as reasonably possible to acquire Allen now because there's no guarantee you'll see him again.
Yeah, Teddy KGB.
Ted, thank you very much. Classic role.
Yeah, I think that with Allen, I think the way you phrase it, as aggressive as you can be without being overly aggressive, that's probably kind of the mindset.
Pay that to me and his money.
There you go.
Yeah, I think I've done better.
Yeah, it was good enough. Splashing the pot for sure. All right. So that was the What You Bid In segment brought to you by our friends at Pristine Auction, where I have to say they have something for every sports fan. If you are already registered with Pristine, you can use the code FANTASYLIFE when you win an item to receive $25 off at checkout. If you're a first-time user, you can register using the code FL20 to get $20 in credits added to your account. I actually just recently got some stuff from Pristine Auction, more like in the pop culture category versus nice. Sports memorabilia.
Yeah.
But I got some Funko Pops, some Star Wars Funko Pops. I don't have a big Funko Pop collection, but the ones I have, I definitely like. Man, I don't think I won the bid on them, but they had some Seinfeld ones on there. The Soup Nazi, George Costanza. They had a Costanza Funko Pop. I would have liked to have gotten that. It was autographed. George Costanza autographed Funko Pop. I could go the rest of my life being happy if I won that in a Pristine auction. Speaking of Pristine auction, I believe that our producer extraordinaire Matt LaMarca has sifted through what they have there and has found some Alvin Kamara memorabilia. LaMarca, let's pull that up here. Okay.
So Tennessee Volunteer. I like that. The college helmet.
The college helmet, the Saints helmet, the framed jersey, and then I'm assuming this is a rookie card here. That has been autographed. Not for sure a rookie card. Yeah, rookie autograph card here. All right.
Graded. It's got the cool slab.
Yeah. All right. Out of these, what do you think you would go with?
Man, I mean, you get a lot with the jersey, right? You get the problem with me is I move so much. I've got so much cool stuff to hang on the wall, but it's all just boxed up. So I never can hang it on the wall. So I can't take I'm tempted with the card because that's easy to move. But I know that we shouldn't be living in my world where we're moving all the time. But I kind of like the Tennessee helmet. It's different. I wasn't expecting to see a Tennessee helmet. It's got the black helmet's cool with the silver signature. It looks like a nice strong A, like Alvin and the Chipmunks. proudly emblazoned on Alvin's chest. So I'm going with the Tennessee volunteer helmet.
Yeah, that one is tough because
Smoky top.
I'm not like a like Tennessee Volunteers fan. You know what I mean? It's not like I dislike them, but it's not like that's a team I root for. But I really did like Alvin Kamara as a prospect when he was entering the league. And I would say like I was higher on him than most people. And so having the Tennessee helmet kind of harkens back to that. So yeah, maybe I would go with the Tennessee helmet. I think I would probably go with the rookie autograph card though. I mean, all of this is dependent on price, of course, but as you mentioned, easy to transport. It's like sealed, it's like hermetically sealed. So you don't have to worry about, like with the helmet, like, oh, what if I scratch it? Like the card, it's safe. It's easy to move. You got the rookie autograph. That feels like the way I would probably want to go.
Can't argue it. We were saying, sadly, the pair of the Christmas cleats from a few years ago that he wore when he scored the 6 touchdowns, was it? In the fantasy playoffs, nonetheless. Those are probably in the Hall of Fame.
Probably not.
No, they put all auction. Well, not a pristine auction.
Yeah, probably not a pristine auction. Probably in Canton. Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett's jersey's now in the Hall of Fame. They get that stuff there quick. I remember the one time I went, it wasn't for like the Fantasy Expo, but I went just one random winter, and it was like the day after a Sunday, and Nick Foles threw like 6 touchdowns for the Eagles, and that jersey was already there. And I'm like, wow, I'm at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I'm looking at Nick Foles jersey from like a day ago. But
all right, so check out Pristine Auction. Get your Alvin Kamara, get your sports memorabilia, your pop culture Funko Pop memorabilia. Get all that stuff at Pristine Auction. Yeah, so much stuff.
I got lost surfing that site many times. Thankfully, I lost a lot. I was upset I lost a lot of bids because I'd be banked right now. But bottom line, a lot of sweet stuff.
Yeah, some great stuff. One of my favorite things to do is just go, because like it can be really tilting to see something you like, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, this has another 5 days till the auction ends. So I'll just go to like the button where it's like auction ends tonight. Like, and then I'll just surf through all of that stuff. I feel like that's my favorite way to search Pristine Auction. All right. So next episode, we're going to be talking about our flex fades. We're going to flex around and find out. We're also going to talk maybe about the perfect Thanksgiving dinner or Thanksgiving setup. All right, so look forward.
I'm all about it. Yeah. I love that discourse. Let's do it. I got a lot of research to do.
A lot of research. Yeah. I have a lot of food that I need to eat before that next episode that I can come in with an informed opinion. So, all right. Looking forward to that. For Brian, for producer Matt LaMarca, I'm Matthew Freeman, and we'll see you next episode.